Good morning, church. I hope that you are doing well on this Lord's Day with another week in quarantine. I hope that you found ways to stay busy, found ways to stay entertained, found ways to keep your kids entertained, which might be the more difficult part. And I thought this might be kind of fun, but if you want to engage on the Facebook page with one another, go ahead and write in a comment under the sermon the different activities that you've been doing over the past couple weeks staying at home. What have you found that you've really enjoyed? How have you been spending your time? What projects are you working on currently? That sort of thing. And that might be kind of fun to talk with other members who you might not engage with on a personal level, on a physical interaction level right now. But if you want to go ahead and leave that in the comments, that might be fun to do. Claire and I, we haven't been doing too much. I've been working on schoolwork, catching up, and using a lot of the time to do some reading. So I hope that you're doing well. This week, the text that we read for this week is an interesting one. It's next Sunday is going to be Palm Sunday, and then Holy Week, and then Easter is coming up. So this is the Sunday before Palm Sunday. And in this text, Jesus is sort of talking about signs of the end times. Now, usually we don't hear too much about, in our current culture, about the end times and how things are going. But with the coronavirus, there's actually been quite a bit of chatter from people who are talking about the end times, that the end times are near, that this virus is actually an apocalyptic act of God on the world, or perhaps it's God's judgment on the world. But so this text, the way I preach these texts, I usually have a text that I've already chosen for this Sunday weeks in advance. And this was the text that was given for this Sunday, so I didn't go out of my way to choose this. This was the one that was slotted for this Sunday, looking ahead towards Easter. And it's interesting, because in many ways, there's a lot of apocalypse talk going on in the current culture. But apocalypse literature is not necessarily the same thing as the end of the world literature. The word apocalypse comes from a Greek word that just means to reveal or to disclose. When I was teaching a class to the youth kids in Holly, we did a class on Revelation, and I tried to describe to them that Revelation or apocalypse just means to sort of come out from behind the curtain, so to speak. That in The Wizard of Oz, when the wizard is revealed to Dorothy and the troop there, they literally just pulled back the curtain and showed, and we were revealed, who is this wizard? Well, he's a guy just pushing some buttons and projecting an image of himself, and he wasn't really what he said he was. Well, apocalypse literature sort of does the same thing. It discloses where God is and what is really happening behind the curtains of this world, behind when we experience world events, when the people of the text were experiencing cataclysmic, terrifying events, what is God doing behind the scenes? What is God really up to here? And this text is no different. In fact, the question that I think we need to ask here is, where is the power of God being disclosed in the world in this text to Mark? And the answer to that is a couple ways. In the Jewish world, where is the power of God disclosed? You would have to answer that at the temple in Jerusalem. That God is uniquely revealed, and that His presence He is uniquely present at the temple in worship and in sacrifices. That is where your sins could be forgiven. That is where people made pilgrimages to worship God, because God made His presence available at the temple. And Mark is shifting that, because he's writing at the time either the temple has been destroyed or it's about to be destroyed when Mark is writing his gospel. And he's thinking about what does the world look like without the temple? Where is God's presence found without a temple where we can go and find it. And so in this text, he is answering that question. Jesus is prophesying that the temple is going to be destroyed. There's not going to be a stone left standing on another stone. The Romans are going to come in and they are going to wipe everything out. They are going to totally destroy this temple. And Mark's answer to this question, where is the power of God disclosed when there's no temple? When our religious establishment is no longer there, when we can't access God the way we used to, where is God during this time? His answer in this text, I think, is that God is uniquely found with the temple gone, with the temple destroyed. God is uniquely found in the crucifixion of Jesus. And there are several parallels. So in this text, in this prophecy, one thing that gets skipped over is usually it says, no, Jesus is talking about the destruction of the temple. He's not talking about the end of the world, so to speak. Or he's talking about the destruction of the temple and the end of the world. That's usually what gets talked about. But one thing that gets missed, I think, in this text is the parallels between what Jesus is saying here and the passion narrative that's about to ensue. You see, in this text, Jesus has already entered Jerusalem. He's been dialoguing with the religious authorities. It's not Maundy Thursday yet in the text. In fact, I think it's Wednesday in the text. But Jesus is sort of talking about his own passion. He's talking about this upcoming Thursday night and Friday. So there are several parallels here. One, the first parallel comes in verse 20. Let me flip a page here. Verse 24. In those days following that distress, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. The sky is going to go dark. There's going to be earthquakes. That happens at the crucifixion when Jesus is being crucified. At that time, men will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and great glory. And he will send his angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of the heavens. And then further, as you get down to the day and the hour, Jesus says, no one knows about that day or hour, not even angels in heaven or the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard, be alert. You do not know when that time will come. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know when the owner of the house will come back, whether in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows or at dawn. If he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. What I say to you, I say to everyone, watch. So here we have sort of a cataclysmic event which is looking ahead to Jesus' crucifixion. But we also have here that no one knows the day or the hour, and we have 4 times that Jesus gives. 4 times. We have, nobody knows if he's going to come in the evening, or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or at dawn. Those 4 time periods are significant during the Passion narrative. Evening is when Passover, the supper, the Lord's Supper, is being celebrated. At midnight, that's when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he's betrayed. When the rooster crows, Peter's denial. And then at dawn, Jesus goes before Pilate. And then in 36, if he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. Well, what happens when in the Passion narrative? The disciples are found sleeping. They're not keeping watch. They're asleep. And so I think this text, as much as I think it's doing a couple things. It is talking about the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. It's talking about the end times when Jesus will come to fully reign on earth and in heaven. And it's also talking about, it's paralleling that with Jesus' own crucifixion. That is the cataclysmic event when the Son of Man is glorified, as John talks about it, that the Son of Man is lifted up. And I think that's the point. I think that's the point here, that in the crucifixion, the world is flipped on its head, that the Son of Man comes in glory, not on the clouds, but that the Son of Man comes on a cross. Because if you remember, and as we'll get to in the crucifixion narrative, the Roman Gentile, it comes before the cross and he says, surely this is the Son of God. And so Jesus' divinity, his status is proclaimed there on the cross. So this apocalyptic literature, what this is right here, it's asking the question, what is going on behind the scenes? Where is God during this time? Where is God with the destruction of the temple? Well, the truth is that God is uniquely revealed in Jesus on the cross. God is revealed in Jesus' crucifixion. And when the veil is torn, when the temple worship is done away with, Mark is saying, listen, the temple's not important anymore. God is accessed uniquely and solely through Jesus Christ and his crucifixion. The world is shaken and the world is turned on its head, and the Son of Man has come in glory in the crucifixion of Jesus and his resurrection. So that's the text, and we're looking forward to Easter now. We're looking forward to Palm Sunday and possibly celebrating those at home as well. But I want us to think about the question, where do we see Jesus today? Where is the power of God revealed today? When there's a cataclysmic event and the world is sort of shaken by this virus, where we're having to stay home and people are dying from it, where is the power of God uniquely revealed today? I don't think it's in the virus, that God is judging the world through this virus, that God is demonstrating his power and bringing his wrath on the world through the virus. I don't think that's not what this text is saying. That's not the claim of this text. Rather, I think what this text is saying is that if you want to find God, He's found in Jesus Christ, and Jesus is found on the crosses of this world. Jesus is sharing in the experience of those who suffer unjustly in this world, of people who are suffering. Jesus Christ is still suffering today. And then I think our imperative is to watch with these eyes, that what has been revealed to us about about God's power and where Jesus is, that we look at the world through that lens of a crucified Lord, of a God who became a human and entered into the suffering of humanity and died a brutal death, and that was his version of power and glory, and that was how this world was changed, and that is how he rules. That with that image, that is how we look at the world. And so we need to keep watch. We need to look at the news through that lens, that Jesus Christ is sovereign, that God is Lord. And so that's what this service today has been designed to look like. It's been designed a bit more to suggest that God is sovereign over all, that Jesus, and that his sovereignty is found in the crucified Jesus, that his lordship is found there. So as we watch the news and we see this virus unfold, I think the one thing that we cannot stop doing is placing our hope and trust in God. And specifically, I think as we look at people and we look at how people are acting and reacting to this virus, we need to think about, what does it mean to adopt this crucified ethic, or this crucifixion ethic that Jesus held? What does it mean to turn loose of power? What does it mean to follow in his footsteps? So I want to encourage you this week. stay well, find things to do, but keep watch because God is moving in this world, and he's moving in the cross. Thank you. God bless.